Yeah, a very warm welcome from my side as well. I'm really happy that we met here in Ulm, in the probably one of the most modern indoor shooting ranges in Europe, or probably also in the world. And it's really cool to see really those different kind of countries in one room. When I see here the table, the best rifle scopes, the best probably rifles, good ammunition, everything is prepared. So we can go down in the shooting range, we can use this experience of those fantastic products. And I have also the pleasure to explain a little bit theoretically the Z8i. And it's really cool again to stay here now, because it was already a few years ago when we had the idea to have an 8x zoom rifle scope in a 30mm tube. And now, after long meetings and technical issues in-house, we can mount them on rifles and we can use them here in the shooting range. So that's really pretty cool. And when we see a little bit the history where we come from, so 2007, the introduction of the Z6 rifle scope, to this time a total new innovation. Everybody in the world said it's not possible to put a 6x zoom in a 30mm tube. Now, 8 years later, we put an 8x zoom in a 30mm tube, which is really related to the philosophy of the company, to people in-house who really work hard on every little detail that we can really have those products now in our hand. Z6 second generation, as Thomas already mentioned, when it makes sense for us to see that there are really some improvements, we put everything in a package and then we can come out with that. Yeah, as I said already, when we have everything in a package, we come out with a second generation. This was Z6, and now really with the fantastic Z8 in 2016. From June onwards now we are able to deliver, our production side is really working very hard. I was yesterday walking around. It's really cool what we see there at the moment. Everything is working hard. But nevertheless, we will not fulfill all those wishes at the moment in the beginning. But I have a quite good feeling that we'll go really fast and quickly ahead. In our opinion, it's really a beginning of a new area. So an 8x zoom in a 30mm tube, and it's really everything what a hunter is expecting is now in a rifle scope. So it's illuminated, second image plane, 8x zoom, Swarovski aim function, flexible ballistic turret, a lot of service programs around. So hopefully really people outside feel that we are enthusiasm hunters, we are using our products, and we really try to fulfill everything which is possible and what makes sense. And I think with the Z8i we are on a good way. Takes you to the next level, and the three sentences which really describe the rifle scope is 8x zoom, second to none, perfectly designed, and unlimited versatility. Those are the three sentences which explain very, very briefly the product, but I think it's really good. So you know 8x zoom, the design, which means 30mm tube, very slim, and versatility, which means flexible ballistic turret, flexible reticles, ballistic programs, and all those stuff. And to jump in a little bit into the atmosphere of a Z8 rifle scope, we have a nice movie, so probably some of you have seen them already on EVA, on YouTube, or somewhere else. But again, we start here a little bit with a movie to start into the atmosphere of Z8. Start a little bit with the explanation of the 8x zoom. So you have seen in the video, in the end, we have four models in the beginning, which is not normal, that you can really offer more or less the whole range of rifle scopes which you need out in the market. So I think it's quite clear for what kind of reasons you use our rifle scopes, and that you use a 1-8x24 for driven hunts. Today we have a good chance on a 25-meter stand to test them. The 1.7 to 13.3 by 42 is probably not so easy to talk out, but 13.3 has to be needed, because otherwise people would say it's not a real 8x zoom, because zoom factor is always the maximum magnification divided by the minimum magnification, and that shows you the zoom factor. In the case of 1 to 8 it's quite easy. In the case of 1.7 to 13.3 it's not so easy. That was probably the reason we didn't want to put 13 on the magnification, because then there could be a complaint of a few customers who say it's not an 8x zoom. And this is really something what we have to say, it is a real 8x zoom from the lower magnification to the higher magnification. From the starting magnification, it's more or less the same thing as with the Z6. So we have the lower magnification is always the same one. The maximum magnification is then, of course, multiplied by 8 instead of 6, so that gives you more flexibility. The only exception is the 2.3 by 18 to 56. The Z6 was 2.5 to 15, but especially in this case we decided to use really the field of view, to go a little bit lower with the magnification, to have really a 56 rifle scope with the biggest field of view on the market. And that was the reason why we changed here the zoom factor a little bit to the minimum magnification. 2 to 16 by 50, generally spoken, the universal rifle scope, so you can really fulfill a lot, or probably really all hunting situations with a 2 to 16 by 50. A rifle like these, caliber 308, then you have really a good standard universal solution. But of course we always need professional ones for driven hunts, for night observation, and therefore, for instance, we have the 56 with really the maximum light or night performance, biggest objective diameter, biggest exit pupils. So here we have just a short slide to see a little bit where we see our products mainly in usage. But I think it's quite clear here in the room that the 1 to 8 is mainly for driven hunt. The 1.7 can be used on stalking, driven hunt, and a little bit on sitting hunt as well. The 2 to 16 by 50, I would say generally the universal rifle scope, and the 2 and the 2.3 by 18 to 56. Mainly, let's say, for the twilight hunters, but as I mentioned already, you can use it even for a driven hunt situation, because with a 2.3 magnification, the field of view is really still good. Let's talk a little bit about the optical performance. To bring out an 8x zoom and make even the optical design slightly better than on a Z6 is really, and I cannot say this enough, related to those people in our company. Of course, we have the board members who force us, who always tell us we have to go for it. But in the end of the day, it's really related to those people like Franz Erler, for instance, who are there for 20, 30, 40 years. They are not just working there for the board members. They work there for the company Swarovski. They are branded. They have the inventory number already in them. And this is the reason why we really have the chance to bring out products like these. It's an improved optical brilliance. Still the mistake is inside. So it's not on the low magnification, it's on the high magnification. Especially on the high magnification you have more resolution compared to the Z6. To be honest, to see it outside in the field is quite tricky, but on the test when we test them in-house, you really see that the resolution in the image middle on high magnification, even if the magnification is higher than on Z6, it's better in this case. The viewing comfort, especially so-called these eye box situation with the 1 to 8, is slightly better, so it's now easier to get really in the shooting position. But also on this side, a remark, it's very important when people are using the driven hunt that really the stock of the rifle fits perfectly to them, because sometimes they are going upwards and downwards and they're complaining about the eye box, and then you see how the rifle scope is mounted and they are not finding in the position. So sometimes it's really, or very often it's really to find the right position. And the outstanding field of view, including the image quality on the edges. And this is always very important when you hear, for instance, field of view. We have the biggest field of view. When you hear that, you immediately have to think about, okay, what's going on with the image quality? So big field of view, yeah, you can have it, but you want to have a big field of view and the good image quality on the edges. And this is really, I would say, on the Z8, it's the best quality what you can get on the market when you compare it with other ones. Some hunters normally say, okay, I'm not interested in the edge sharpness because I'm just looking into the middle. Therefore, I have to say something. Because I'm an optician, Especially we men have one trouble: we cannot control our eyes. So that means when you look through a binocular, you don't know where you look through, what you do. And this is something what you can immediately test when you give a person, for instance, a binocular. Let them look through and look to his eyes. His eyes always moving to the left, to the right, upwards, downwards. There are always slightly movements. You cannot control that. This is like the heartbeat. You cannot control this. And this is what your eye is doing all the time. Even when you look through a riflescope, it looks for contrast. It's searching for sharpness. And as better and more natural the whole image is, as easier and as longer you can observe. And this is very important for things like these when you look through a riflescope. Even when you think you just look to the middle. That's not the truth. Your eye is looking all around and searching for the best contrast. Perfectly designed. I think really 30mm tube. This is one of the reasons why a Z8 is still looking very slim, very elegant, and fits more or less to all our rifles in the world. The illumination unit and all these operating elements are smaller. They are related to the changing of the battery, because the former generation has the battery here in the cockpit. We changed it now to the parallax turret, so that means we can make it really slimmer and more elegant compared to Z6 first generation, second generation, and now the Z8 is really probably one of the most elegant ones. The turrets are a little bit bigger, related to this flexible ballistic turret. This is also the reason why the weight is increasing compared to the Z6. But nevertheless, when we compare 8 times zoom with competitors, I think the weight issue is really quite easy to explain. So 8 in 30, so probably some of you can remind our teaser in the beginning of the year with this infinity sign, with the 8, where we were playing around, where we produced some rumors out in the world. The 8 came out and it's coming soon. It was quite funny. Some hunters say it immediately, it is an 8 times zoom riflescope. But other ones were talking about a new EL range, some other ones were talking about new telescopes. So related to the market, it was really interesting what was going on. Once again, the design of Z6 and Z8. So when we see here now this first generation 2007 of Z6, it was quite unusual to this time. A lot of people were talking about Starship or Star Trek or something else is coming up. Then in the second generation it was already more elegant, but still the battery was inside there. It's reducing the number of different kind of products tremendously. The Z6, I'm not really sure how many models we had, but the Z6 was available with illumination, without illumination, with rail, without rail, different kind of reticles, with ballistic turret or without ballistic turret. I think in the worst case scenario we had 120 or 130 different kind of Z6 models, so which is always a challenge to order the right ones and to produce the right ones, because when we produce them we have to decide what kind of reticle do we put inside of the riflescope. Yeah, and then you do the order, and unfortunately exactly this model is not on stock, but we would have another reticle. But you know, it's quite hard to sell another reticle when the customer exactly wants to have this one. With these flexible ballistic turret, we reduced now the amount of different kind of models to around about 36, 40 models, which are now available, because all the Z8 models are illuminated. There are no non-illuminated versions available, because we see the market is more or less, especially in Europe, Central Eastern Europe, it's the only exception is really the American market, which is still buying riflescopes without illumination. So, and this is, I think, a big advantage for us, and it's the same advantage for you. When you put the products on stock, you buy or you order different kind of additional ballistic turret, and consumers can buy the riflescope with or without ballistic turret. All the mechanical components which are needed for the ballistic turret are already inside of the of the rifle scope, and the only thing what you have to do is you add these ballistic turret. What else gives you flexibility? The 8 times zoom, of course. More zoom means more flexibility. Even if you don't need it, it's an issue. You have it, and there could be a situation that you need it. The same thing is with the ballistic turret. I'm not so sure that everybody who is buying a ballistic turret is using the ballistic turret all the time. But nevertheless, is this probably this once in a lifetime hunt, and you don't have a ballistic turret with you? You will complain to yourself all the time, or customer will complain to your dealer or someone else that you don't have the right product in the right moment. Flex change reticle. It's the first time that we have a reticle where you can change the illumination and not just the brightness, so you can change the art of the rifle scope. So you have a 4AI rifle scope, reticle, sorry, or you can really switch it to a circle dot reticle, which is really good, especially when we're using the driven hunt situation, because we saw a lot of people out in the field. They are deciding between a 4AIF and a circle dot. They do not know, and this is the first rifle scope where you can switch between the different kind of rifle scopes. Functional accessories, BBR, which means personalized ballistic ring, throw lever, SLPs, scope guards, etc. Those are really good things to negotiate with customers. When they are complaining about discounts and all those stuff, try to bring the accessory into these discussion with SLPs additionally or something like these. You can probably skip them a little bit out of these permanently price discussion. Online service programs. We have tablets here, especially then also in the seminar room. You can use them in the shooting range downstairs as well. Ballistic programs, subtension dimension programs, lead distance apps. This is also a part of flexibility. So in the meanwhile, all the people are used to apps, so they download the apps, and especially the ballistic app is really one of the most successful apps we ever had, probably will ever have. It's really a cool tool which is needed, especially when you want to shoot on long distances. Let's talk a little bit about these ballistic turret. It's, as I mentioned, the proven Swarovski optic ballistic turret system. It's the same system, more or less, what we have been used in the Z6, but there's a huge difference. You can take it off and you can click it on. I was on tour a few weeks ago with the designer and the patent owner, and I'm not really sure if I can say it, but nevertheless, it's, he was once in his garden, and he was sitting there, and he was sprinkling his green, and then he realized one thing. He took off the Gardena click, and that was the idea. This was the beginning of the idea that he said, wow, that's it. We need some solution, like, you know, Gardena, those click system. That was the beginning of the idea that he came to the company and said, wow, let's do something similar like this. Of course, it's more proven, more technically, but the beginning of the idea was a thing like this. Immediately ready, and just click it on and it's there. A big advantage is when people have no idea about the ballistic turret and all those stuff, you can do it together with your customers in your shop. You can set them up, even if they don't have the rifle scope with them. They come home and they click the ballistic turret on their rifle. To take it on and to take it off, it's quite easy. You take a pen, or normally when you're on a hunt, you have ammunition with you, and there's a little hole here in the middle. Just click it, and you can take it off, and you can take it on. So it's really a quite easy job. Of course, you do have to do the right setup. You have a box of the ballistic turret. You get a box with a lot of rings inside. So you get the turret, and you get 6 rings. 4 rings are marked with the number 2, 3, 4 and 5, which are related to the distance 200, 300, 400 and 500, meter or yard, doesn't matter in this case. And additionally you get 2 rings with a point marking, which means that gives you a flexibility between 200 and 300, for instance. You set 1 point mark in between, which then means 250, so then you have 200, the point mark is 250, 3 is 300 and 4 is 400. Very important, you can just mount 4 rings. Not all those 6 rings fit on the ballistic turret. If they do, you have probably another product, another Swarovski product in your hand. Additionally, you have 2 so-called scale marking rings. 1 ring, instead of all those 4, you can use this one with the click marks. So that means if you are using tables or something else, you still have the chance to see every single click from 0 to 70 in this case. Additionally, as I mentioned, you have the ring for the windage, because when you use it for the windage, you need 2 directions, which means in one direction you have 30 clicks, and in the other direction you have 30 clicks as well. And normally this is enough when we're talking about windage. If you need more clicks for windage, it's better to go home and have some coffee. As you see here, it's just mounted on the turret, and that's it. It gives you already a lot of flexibility, but it's also quite easy to use it. Everybody who is used to a ballistic turret from the former time, I think it's a bit easier now to set it up. Of course, you always need our ballistic program. Or you can go on a shooting range and shoot on the distances and find out your clicks by yourself. If this is not flexibility enough, you still have the chance to order a customized ring. So it's called the BBR, Personalized Ballistic Ring. So I think we can make a little quiz afterwards what PXC, PBC and all those PTF and all those short names are called for. PBR, Personalized Ballistic Ring, which means instead of those scale marking ring with the clicks, you get a ring which is engraved with your distances for your ammunition. So that means when you have a certain kind of ammunition, like we have here, for instance, 308 RWS Target Elite 10.9, you give this into the program. Additionally, I would always recommend, especially when you do orders like these, to measure the muzzle velocity. Muzzle velocity is really the biggest impact for failures. Of course, altitude and all those stuff is important as well, but muzzle velocity is really the biggest flexibility. Of course, you can take the numbers from the package, but as everybody probably here in the room knows, that this is a roundabout number, and depending on the barrel and all the things what you're using, it could differ. So, as I said, I recommend measure the muzzle velocity, or really shoot it on a shooting range where you have probably your ballistic turret, and when you're sure that everything is calculated in the right way, then take those numbers and use them in the BBC. To order the BBC, this is something what we try to do in the seminar room later on. Very important is that the customer should registrate himself. Because if you do it by yourself and you help him and you give your email address in it and your password, it's your responsibility. And if the customer gives in his email address and his password, it's his responsibility. Very briefly here, the Reticle, as I mentioned already, you have now the opportunity to have a 4AI reticle, and this is called 4AIF. F stands for flexible, because via pushing plus and minus for 5 seconds, then an additional ring will appear, and then it's a circle dot rifle scope which you can use in this case. Additionally, you have the Swarovski technology, which means when you have the rifle scope in a shooting position, it's automatically switched on. when you stand it up like this, it's switched off, and when you lay it down, it's switched off again. And it's automatically switched on when you put it in this position. Of course, you have to switch on the illumination unit before. When it's switched off, it will not work. What happens when the illumination starts to flash?
Battery change.
Exactly. Where is the battery?
Parallax.
Exactly.
In Müller shop.
In Müller shop. Where is the spare battery? In this case, it's in here. So, in here you have the spare battery, and very important, when you change this battery, don't put the empty battery as a spare battery in this side, because next time you will have some surprises. Once again, 8 times zoom, perfectly designed, unlimited, versatile. I think these are really the 3 perfect sentences which explain very good the advantages of the Z8. One technical issue I want to bring in is, especially when you mount the riflescopes, you have to take care, compared to the Z6, that this turret solution is now 9.2 millimeter further than on the Z6 solution. Which means, especially when you're using blaster ring mounts, that you have to go exactly up to this point, that you still have the distance from the end of the Shaft?
Stock.
From the end of the stock to the beginning of the riflescope. So this is a technical issue that you need a bit more area in this case. With all the rail mounts, it's not an issue. When you have ring mounts on other riflescopes, it's not an issue, but we realized on blaster mountings, it could be a point. So it still fits, but it's just unusual that you go with the rings directly to the turrets. The parallax correction catch. So when you're using the parallax turret, especially when you're shooting on longer distances, there is a catch on 100 meter, which means when you use your riflescope in a poor light condition and you just want to check if everything is on the base settings, that you feel, okay, 100 meter, okay, I'm fine. Because parallax failure could be an issue when you're out in the field.
I have a question about this 100 meters parallax correction. Is it always 100 meters, or it's approximately 100 meter parallax correction?
So in this case, 100 meter is exactly,
it's fixed, and it's
and then as higher you go, you don't have numbers anymore, because then you should correct it via the sharpness. But 100 meter is fixed. Yeah, once again, a few numbers. As I mentioned already, a real 8 times zoom, 42.5 meter field of view in the driven hunt solution, which is really outstanding. In this case, even the transmission is higher than on the Z6. This is related to all those improvements on coatings as well. In the amount, there are the same amount of lenses than on the Z8, but the coatings are better now, which means 93 instead of 91%. But as Thomas already mentioned, it's really hard for the human eye to see 3 to 5% difference of transmission. We did really several tests, so marketing-wise it's nice, it's good, because 93 is always better than 91. But this is, and I compare it sometimes with cars. This is the same thing if you say I have a car with 300 horsepower or 302, and you would say the 302 horsepower is the faster car than the other one. So it's a certain kind of number, but it's important that transmission is just one component in the whole optical design. The rest is contrast, resolution, detail recognition, sharpness. Those are much more critical factors than the transmission. But the transmission is a number, And the number is easy to compare. It's like weight. Contrast, resolution, detail recognition is very physically, and it's very hard for people to talk about those issues. And this is the reason why people are mainly focused on transmission, which is important, but it's not the most important thing in riflescopes or binoculars. The 30mm tube, as I mentioned already, is responsible for the weight in the end of the day, the weight compared to our competitors. I said already, the turrets are a little bit bigger, and this is the reason why the weight is slightly higher than the Z6, but it's still much lighter than the comparison. The 4AIF is available, and here you see the different kind of reticles are available on different kind of products. Very important, the 4AIF is available on the 1 to 8 by 24 and the 1.7 to 13.3 by 42. Also very important, the first products which will be delivered, the 1 to 8 models which will be delivered, they just have the 4AIF reticle. The other ones will be available in September.
Just one thing, the 4AIF is not engraved on the product. So on the box you see 4AIF, but on the rifle scope there is no mark if it's a flexible reticle or not. So if the rifle scope itself is laying in the shop, you have to check if it's a flexible reticle or a standard 4AIF reticle. Or you see it when you look on the white wall, you slightly will be able to see if it's a 4AIF or not.
Once again, a short summary about the accessories. SLP, BTF, personalized ballistic ring, throw lever, and SLP for objective and eyepiece, and the reticle where you can interchange between a 4AI and the circle dot reticle. The throw lever is mounted on one rifle here, and it's mounted over there. Have a look to it, it's really a nice feature. Especially on a driven hunt, you can really change the magnification much easier. But it's also really good for X5 shooters, for instance. When you're in a lying position, it's much easier to change the magnification. Dimension program, a lot of people always ask about how thick is the point, the rings, the bars and so on. This is an app where you just have to choose your rifle scope, the distance, the magnification, and then you see every single detail, how much the point is covering on 100 meter or the bars are covering on 100 meter. That's it so far from the theoretical part. We are perfectly on time. Now it's time to go shooting. First question.